On today's episode of The Librarians Did That! Hey guys, what's up? It's Julie the Bibliophile. Today I am here to discuss Season 4, Episode 9 of The Librarians and A Town Called Feud. I loved this episode. To be quite honest, for the whole episode, I wasn't really getting into it, and I was actually talking to my friend about how we were kind of in a lull at this point in the season with all the fillers. And then, in like the last 5-10 minutes of the episode, it became one of my favorites, because wow. So before we start, I also want to mention that I have a bonus vlog going up this week. It's going to be uploaded at the same time as this video. That's going to be about some more Season 4 theorizing, connections to past seasons, maybe a possible theme for this season, and also talking about how all the past episodes might connect in the finale. So I'm going to talk about that a little later in the episode, but you can check the link down in the description and at the end of the video to check out my ramblings about Season 4 for another bonus this week. So this episode saw us going into the debate deeply about whether or not there should be only one librarian, because Jake and Ezekiel think there should be only one librarian, where Cassandra thinks there should be more than one. This got into some really interesting discussions of their character, especially for Cassandra, and I really enjoyed that. Jake and Ezekiel and Eve go off on their own when the clippings book calls them to a town called Feud, where people are citing ghosts at a Civil War reenactment. And I was really excited because I think it's the first time we've seen the clippings book this season. We had Eve mention the clippings book when we went to the camp in the Disenchanted Forest, but Eve just picked up pamphlets. We've never actually seen, like, you know, the clippings book open and give us something this season. So I'm really excited to see the clippings book again because I missed that little bugger. I'm just going to talk in general about the episode. So I loved the brother dynamic between Jake and Ezekiel, which I've always loved. How they were bickering through the episode, like brothers will bicker, but at the end it ties into the fact that, like, they love each other because they're brothers. And it was so sweet, and I just want to talk about the end of the episode because, good God, that was so sweet. I mean, just the end of the episode. Just the end of the episode because, like, I can't get over how good it was. Honestly. So, you know, they're dealing with this whole thing with the Civil War ghost sightings, and there's this story of the two brothers who were fighting on opposite sides of the Civil War, and there's a museum with the line that divided the North and the South right between them, right, running down the middle of the town, which I thought was really cool, and as, like, a history buff, I loved it. I thought it was so cool. It was tickling my history buff bone to be hearing all this Civil War lore, even though I knew it probably wasn't true. I thought it was really cool to have that idea of the line. This is where the North and the South split. We had this locket, and we had the lady, like, joining together the pieces of the locket, and we're learning this lore about the brothers that fought on opposite sides of the Civil War and eventually killed each other. There's all these sightings of ghosts, and in the end, all the ghosts come forward when the two halves of their locket are rejoined, and they possess all the people in the town who start fighting with each other, and then the brothers themselves possess Jake and Ezekiel, and Jake and Ezekiel are about to kill each other. Fun times. So that's our lead up with most of the episode, and at the same time we have Cassandra and Jenkins staying in the annex. I still don't ship them, but I did appreciate this scene, like, was good Caskins this episode. Even though I don't ship that personally, I still really do adore their dynamic, and I love seeing them get to do this research together because they always love to do that, and it's so sweet. We had some insight on Cassandra this episode. Like, first of all, Cassandra's secret goth phase. God. I just love the little, like, throwaway lines that the Librarians gives. Like, they're just like, oh yeah, I have an irrational fear of ravioli. Oh yeah, Jake, I dated twin sisters at the same time. Just, like, these little throwaway lines, like Jenkins with Gretchen Claus. They're some of the best in the series, usually. These throwaway comic relief lines. And this time we got that Cassandra had a misguided goth phase in high school. But you know what? Can you really blame her? Because, Jesus Christ, this girl, when she was 15, found out she had a brain tumor that was going to kill her by the time she was, like, 30-something. She dropped out of school, and her parents took away all of her past achievements from school, and she, like, honestly, she deserved a goth phase. I really do love the idea that if Cassandra had a goth phase, that she is the way she is now, because Cassandra is the complete opposite of a goth phase right now, but I can totally also see her having one at some point, and it's just so much fun to imagine. I would love to see that, because that's just brilliant. It's so funny. I love it. Cassandra also tells Jenkins that she's being selfish in her reasoning for wanting to keep 3 librarians because she says that she never made the cut in high school. She never got picked for the teams, which was really, really sad to get into more Cassie backstory. I hate and love when we have to go into backstories for these characters because I love it, but their lives before the library are so freaking tragic. She's afraid that she's not going to make the cut. If she has to be chosen from one of the 3 of them. And this was really interesting to me because, like, Cassandra has never had that full confidence in herself, and we see she has more confidence in herself now than she had in season 1. We've seen it build up a lot across the seasons, but that, you know, that lack of self-confidence, that doubt of herself is still there. I think that's really realistic. I've said a lot how I love in this show how character development is never, like, full and final. The characters are allowed to backtrack, and even when they move past something, the little signs of it, the scars that it leaves are still there because, you know, even if you're doing a lot better than you once were, you're still working to move on. So even if Cassandra is much more confident now than she was 3 years ago in herself, you know, those little seeds of self-doubt are still there, and this idea of only picking 1 librarian is going to trigger that. So that's a really brilliant piece of writing. I love it. They always find a way to put that in, and I'm astounded once again. And then Jenkins lets out the line of, like, I like having you all around. Jenkins has come so far. In season 1, Jenkins wanted them gone, and now look at him. All of these characters have come so far individually, they've come so far together, and look at Jenkins, he likes having them around. I remember writing that in fan fictions early on during season 2, and now it's a reality being said, and I'm crying. Jenkins! Oh my god, we also had with Jenkins this episode more signs of Jenkins living as a mortal. Jenkins going to the supermarket because he has to eat for the first time. That he's like, immortals can eat if we want to, but we don't have to eat all the time. So now he's like, you know, I'm going to the supermarket. And he hates the supermarket and he's ranting about the supermarket. Getting into the end of the episode, first of all, I want to talk about how amazing that story of the 2 brothers was. It was so heartwarming, and that's where I'm getting into the librarians did that! God! So we hear this whole time about one of the brothers, the brother who was fighting for the Confederacy. I don't remember what his name was, who was who. It was Uriah and Milton. But Uriah and Milton Loveday, and one of them had his wife, Diana Loveday, who, you know, she was widowed after he was killed by his brother, supposedly, but the only records that are kept of them is that they were madly in love, and we don't even have a full picture of her face. And then at the end of the episode, we find out that Diana Loveday was black, and her husband was a Confederate soldier living in the South, and I'm like, holy crap! That was so good, that was so mind-blowingly good that I did not even see it coming at all, and that's probably my own, like, you know, internalized prejudice, but, like, I mean, I'm just not used to it. Like, TV shows don't do things like that, I'm not used to it, and they did that! Dude! And then we had the other brother whose son was killed while he was looking for him. So this makes both of the brothers turn away from the war. And as we see that what actually happens is as they point their guns at each other, they decide that they can't do that, that they actually love each other because they're brothers. And brothers are always going to love each other in the end. And enemy fire ends up killing both of them, a cannonball, and then as they die, they put the 2 halves of the locket back together, and the reason they were haunting the town is that they wanted their true story told, because they were tired of the story of them fighting being the story that was told. My voice got really soft because it's just so incredible to me, and it's so Librarians. You know, you have Jake and Ezekiel kind of telling the lady who runs the museum, like, this is a much better story, like, you're trying to sell this story of drama, of them killing each other, but this story of hope and love and 2 brothers loving each other despite a war going on and fighting for different sides, that's going to bring people to you too. Like, the story of love between 2 brothers, the love between family. That kind of represents for me kind of like how the Librarians sets itself apart from other TV shows. Like, you know, other TV shows get so caught up in the drama. You know, a couple, they're going to break up 10 times, cheat on each other with 3 different people each, but like... the Librarians just spreads this message of, you know, it's a family who loves each other, and they go through obstacles together, but that's the show. It's just a family who loves each other, and, like, they always come back to love each other no matter what, and that's the story you're selling. A story of hope. I'm gonna talk about this more in my bonus vlog, but I really think that that theme of, like, love for each other getting you through a war is gonna come back. I'm gonna talk about in my bonus vlog, again, check the link in the description, how I think that a lot of the themes we've presented in each of the episodes, how each of the different themes of the episodes, the lessons, are going to come back to tie together at the end and help them discover that all three of them, well, all four of them need to be at the library. And so, you know, definitely love being the thing that ends a war, coming together because you love each other, is definitely going to play a big part. You know, with the Litz remembering that they love each other as a family, with Flynn remembering that he loves all of them, Flynn and Eve remembering they love each other, and that's, it's so precious, and I can't wait to see how they use that in the later seasons, because I thought they were going to talk about it more at the end of this episode, because they were definitely driving in that parallel with Jake and Ezekiel, how, you know, Jake and Ezekiel bicker all the time, and they fight all the time, but at the end of the day, they're brothers, and they love each other. Which we definitely see in the series. My heart is beating out my chest! But then, you know, they get to the library at the end, and Cassandra and Jenkins say that they found that letter from Zelpha the Forgetful, and she said that the reason that the brothers fought the first time and caused the Civil War was because they started thinking of themselves selfishly. And Cassandra is saying that they're all thinking selfishly in terms of where they stood on this debate. And I'm almost kind of mad that they decided to go for that drama again at the end, because they normally wouldn't do that. But I also understand, like, that's where we are this season, and that's the conflict that we have, and we kind of just have to resolve. We can't resolve that yet. And it fits in well, it makes sense. But it's emotional, it's definitely emotional, and we've got this idea of where do we go from here, because now their positions on stuff have flipped. And Baird is trying desperately to keep them all together. I also love that Eve was the only one who was able to break the locket, and I find that really interesting. Like, Eve had trouble, but in the end, she was the only one who was able to break the locket, which is what saved the day. And I really think that has to do with, you know, we still have that line from Season 3, Episode 4 about Eve's great destiny. How she's the greatest guardian, 10 librarians would not be worth this guardian. This guardian is going to change the fate of the library forever. And we have all of that still in the background, and obviously I think that ties to the fact that Eve is going to tether, and become the next Charlene. But I'm really, really interested. We're seeing more and more how important Eve is. And how great and powerful Eve is. And I think I want to talk about this more in maybe a bonus vlog in a couple of weeks, but, like, I think this season is showing more than ever that the Librarians, while it's an ensemble cast, and, you know, obviously it's about Eve and the Litz and Flynn, and I always consider Flynn as a part of that. I do not think it's just about Eve and the Litz, like some people say. I do consider Flynn and Jenkins, like, a whole part of that. It's about that whole family, all 6 of them. But I think if I had to pick one person, normally I float to Flynn because he was the first librarian in the movies, but I think with the show itself, if I had to pick one person whose story this show is, I think it's going to be Eve. This show is largely Eve's story. And I think I thought that back in Season 1, and it seems kind of obvious. And I'm really excited to see more of why Eve is so important and all the different things that Eve can do, and how Eve is kind of set apart from the other guardians that have come before. Look at yeah. So that is it for this week. I think I covered everything. I'm talking for a little bit less than I normally do about this episode because I'm doing my bonus vlog, and a lot of what I want to talk about in regards to that episode is going to be mentioned in the bonus vlog. So again, check the link in the description at the end of the video. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the themes of the different episodes coming together to tie in the finale. I'm also going to talk about the idea that's being enforced this season that maybe prophecy is dangerous. What does that mean, and how do we see the hints of that earlier later on in the show. If you liked this video, please remember to like and subscribe. I do this every week during the season, reviewing each episode as they come out. I also occasionally do bonus vlogs, general talking about the Librarians, and sometimes book reviews and book tags as well. You can follow me on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram. All links are in the description. Until then, I will see you next week for And the Dude Named Jeff. I'm really excited about that episode, the body swapping episode. It should be some good, clean Librarians fun before we get into the horrible, soul-crushing angst of the last two episodes. The next episode was also directed by Lindy Booth, and I'm super excited to see all of this. I will see you guys next week. Stay magical!